Metallica. Growing up in the Bay Area, you had to like Metallica. You know, like I said earlier, Motorhead. Yeah, you got to love Motorhead. You got to love Metallica. I remember the first time I ever heard Metallica. I had my first girlfriend, and she was into Metallica. And I remember we were in her bedroom, and her parents were gone, and it was like, you know, you could possibly get busy, you know? And she puts on Ride the Lightning, and we start to go for it. And Ride the Lightning was so rad that I stopped teenage, adolescent boy behavior to go, who is this? And then we're both sitting there on the edge of her bed, and she shows me the cover of Ride the Lightning. I'm like, oh my God, I've never even heard music like this before. I mean, the closest I'd heard stuff like that was like, you know, punk rock, like Crucifix, you know, heavy guitars and stuff like that. So in 2018, I was opening up for this comedian, Jim Brewer, you know, legendary dude. And he's tight with the guys in Metallica. And at a certain point, we're out on the road, and he would get phone calls from James. He'd get phone calls from Lars. And he gets a call from them at one point, and the idea of having comedian Jim open up for Metallica starts getting thrown around. At this point, I'm just riding shotgun, hearing the conversation, you know, and the idea. But in my head, I'm like, I don't know, dude, that sounds like a nightmare. You know, like just Metallica fans, that'd be like going to San Quentin and being like, hey, let's do an open mic. Let's do some comedy for these guys. You know, like their fans are diehards. The only reason though I thought if anyone could do it, he could do it, is because Brewer had that relationship with the fans, and he had that relationship with AC/DC. So like people knew that he's like a metal guy. So like they knew like this guy's the real deal. He really loves this band. And Metallica, he loves, quotes the band. It's like scripture to him. He can quote it. We get through a tour. He says, hey man, I got asked to do this tour with Metallica. They're gonna announce it on Howard Stern like tomorrow. I'm like, are you serious? He announces it. Everyone's freaking out. He's going out on the road. We go back out on the road, and at a certain point he says, hey man, they said I could bring someone with me. Do you want to go? I'm like, dude, yeah. He goes, I need a DJ. I need someone to help me put together the show. You're a music guy. I think it'll be a perfect match. Do you want to do it? I'm like, absolutely. And he asked me, do you know how to DJ? I go, absolutely, dude. I DJ all the time. And I had never DJed in my entire life. I literally Googled on how to DJ. And it just had, I remember it had like two like laptops. And you can look at photos of, there's two laptops that I have the first night in Madison. And one of the laptops doesn't even work. I just thought they would look cool. Like, yeah, okay. I get out there, and I had never been around a tour that big. I've been on tours, you know, Flogging Molly, Social Distortion. I've been out on the road, but I had never been a part of something of that magnitude. I'm not talking like, hey, Metallica was a small city moving, and they did this 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. The tour was 6 months, 37 shows all over the United States. The venues were anywhere from, 20,000 down to like a small show from them, I remember, was like 17,000. And our gig was to be the opening act before Metallica went on. No band, no music, no band, just two dudes. Hey, check us out. We're gonna come out. And before we went on the tour, Jim had all these ideas of like, we're gonna have, he was like, we're gonna shoot t-shirts out, or he wanted people to come out and like act the songs on stage. And every time we got together to kind of plan something, we would start to plan something, but in his fashion and his ADHD, like we wouldn't get past the fact that we were going on tour with him, and we would just be like, no way, I can't believe we're going on tour with Metallica. I wonder if they'll play this. I wonder if they'll play that off the record. We would just talk about that. So now all of a sudden we're there for the first night, Madison, Wisconsin. We're meeting the crew. And when I say crew, hundreds of people. Not like, hey dude, 4 dudes. I'm talking security, 7 dudes. I'm talking catering, full operation. I'm talking lighting. Lighting looked like it looked like the FBI, just headsets, sound. You don't see any of the sound people because they're all underneath the stage. There's a whole city underneath the stage. It's a circle stage. Oh, didn't take that into account. Oh, Joe, you're the DJ? Yeah, you'll be out on the stage in the center. Yeah, whoa, slow. Dude, when I got there, and immediately, like, it's like working with the president because they're giving you laminates, they're taking photographs of you, and they're walking you around the venue, and then they're like, hey, tonight, you'll do a sound check with, you'll be a part of the sound check with Metallica, and we can kind of figure out how you're gonna bring them out on stage. So we were thrown into it immediately. And of course, Jim's doing a million jokes with those dudes, and they all love him, but they don't know who I am. They're like, who's the fucking little Italian dude that doesn't talk? Like I was just so like, I couldn't talk to them. It was so weird seeing them in real life. Like the only thing I ever said to James during that night was, he's laughing at something Jim's doing, and I said to him, I said, oh my God, James, he's like, how you doing? Great to have you out here. Kind of like, if you're a friend of Jim's, you're a friend of ours, and he's welcoming. And then I go, I don't know why I said, I just want you to know, man, everyone I've met has just been so cool to me. I haven't met one dick on this entire crew. There hasn't been one person that's been a dick to me. And without missing a beat, he goes, have you met Lars yet? And Lars looks up, because he's just sitting there. But we had no plan, and we go out at Madison. And I remember at Madison, Wisconsin, that was our first night. The band was always going on, they were supposed to go on, I want to say 8 o'clock. Doors were at, say, 6, and it was like we would go on, say, 7, and they're supposed to go on at 8 o'clock. That was the plan. We would be up there for maybe an hour. These dudes wouldn't come on stage and wouldn't go on stage till 8:30. So the first night that we go out there, Jim gets all fired up and he goes, yeah, dude, they're coming on at 8. Let's go out there at 6:30. We'll be out there for 90 minutes. Dude, we were out there for 2.5 hours. It was a friggin' nightmare. They were serving no alcohol. I thought they were. There was people there with their kids. I was up on the stage DJing. Jim was going through the crowd trying to, do a bit. I couldn't see him. Jim would yell down like, up here, 4 eyes. I couldn't find my readers. It was a friggin', I remember little kids were flipping me off. They were eating ice cream, like angry, eating ice cream, which was such a weird reality for me to see. Jim's trying to shoot the shirt gun, doesn't work once, doesn't work twice, doesn't work. I mean, it was, and then on top of it, we think they're coming out at 8 o'clock. You ready for this? The crew thought it would be funny to haze Jim and I. That's part of the ritual, to haze us. They knew that Metallica weren't coming out till 8:30, 8:40, and they let us hang out there. I love you guys, but we ended up becoming tight, but they let us hang out there. And by the time Metallica went on, I remember I always say this, when I die, at my funeral, I want someone to say, Joesib would have lived another 3 weeks if he wouldn't have been in Madison, Wisconsin on that night. I was so stressed. I couldn't sleep that night. I remember we were at the hotel, and the next night was like Minneapolis, and I got up, I think 5 a.m, and I went to Jim's room, and I'm knocking on the door, and it was like 6, 7 a.m. He's up, and I'll never forget, he answers the door laughing. He's like, oh man, look at you. He could just tell you haven't slept, have you? And I'm like, no. And I made the mistake of going on the internet. People were saying crazy things. I will burn you. If I ever see you, I will set you on fire. Like crazy. Like, the internet could be mean. This was like straight up, I will burn you. What is that? Like, what? And I just said to Jim, and I'll never forget it. And I just go, dude, we got to fix this. And then he just says this, doesn't even skip a beat. He goes, well, that's why you're out here. Yeah, what? Let's fix it. Come on. Yeah, what'd you think was going? Dude, let's fix it. He goes, what do you want? He goes, tell me what you think, what we could do. And I go, well, first of all, get rid of that shirt gun. He's like, hey, shirt gun's gone. Like, we just started collaborating together. He goes, and I told him this. I said, dude, I'll tell you this right now. When you were doing stand-up, when you were telling the stories, because some reason he kind of felt, I think, they're not going to really gravitate the audience. But when he would do stand-up, that was when it connected. I go, you got to do more of that, dude. Tell those stories, you know? And we went down, and I remember we met with the tour manager, and they were all just like, they hazed us, but there was also, I think, a respect that they were like, all right, you guys aren't going to bail, are you? And we're like, no, we're staying. And we went to Minneapolis, we retooled it, we changed things. I stopped DJing on the stage. I was like, get me off of the stage. I went down on the floor with the fans. I started learning. I started going, you know what? I want to take requests from the fans. How will you do it? Put up my name on there. They can text me. Okay, great. I started in my head. I'm like, because the number one thing, what's the first song you're going to play? If you opened up with Judas Priest, they'd boo. If you opened up with Anthrax, they're going to boo. And I finally figured it out. And it came back to Lemmy. I'm like, the only band that everyone will agree on is Motorhead. So I started opening with Motorhead every night. And then the crowd was like, okay, this guy gets it. And then I play music. Then we bring Jim out. He'd do 10, 15 minutes. Then he'd go backstage, talk to the band. And what we did was, all we did was space ourselves out. We started turning it into, I used to always say the analogy I came up with was, we were two bros that were throwing a kegger, and it just happened to be with 20,000 people. And the band that was gonna play were our bros, Metallica. And Jim would bring them out like, it was like he was bringing them into a backyard, and it just started connecting. And the fans went from hating us to literally loving us, embracing us, becoming friends of ours. And to the point that at the very end, there's this whole group of Metallica fans. They're all on the rail, and they go to every show. They pay a certain amount of money for a ticket, and they were the hardest people to convince, and they ended up becoming some of the best friends that we had on the tour, to the point that they gave us a book of photographs over the whole entire 6 months. And our last night, they all dressed up. And it was so nice. And as James Hetfield says, like, that whole Metallica fan he always calls it a family. And once you're in, you're in. And to this day, when I go out and do stand-up, they'll come out to shows, and every once in a while, they're like, hey man, I met you out on the Metallica tour. It was something I'll never forget. And growing up in the Bay Area, when I was in my bands, I thought I was gonna go on tour. Yeah, Frontline's gonna open for Metallica. If you would have told me then, no dude, you're gonna go out and DJ and do stand-up and, be that guy on a Metallica tour, I would have said, I don't know what you're smoking, but that ain't gonna happen. So it just goes to, like, it never turns out the way you think it's gonna turn out, ever.